I'm Dr. Berry, licensed psychologist, and here I share legal and entertainment news from a psychological perspective. Today, this is a very difficult case, and so I just wanted to give trigger warnings for this one because in this case is about the unaliving of Ajike Owens. She was a mom to 4 boys, and, uh, the individual so Susan, she went on trial for manslaughter, and, we will talk about the court result. I don't believe the prosecution and the judge, I don't think they allowed Susan's history of PTSD to come into the case because she wasn't claiming that she was mentally unfit or anything like that. And so, like I said, trigger warnings for this one. If you have to step out, please do. Please take care of yourself. And then the issues surrounding race did not come up in front of the jury. Now, there are things that we'll review because there are allegations that Susan used to call the children derogatory words. And that's all the children, not only the African American children, that she would call all the children names, and that, from my impression of Susan's behavior, she seemed to be very controlling. She seemed to be demanding. She seemed to have this entitlement that there was a space that was not her property. It was just an open lot where the kids would play. That is what started all of this. And it went on for months and months and months of calls to the police by Susan making different allegations. And I have full links to videos that I'll be sharing down in the description. This case is super, super sad. Thank you all so much for joining. Rochelle, I totally agree that this was unnecessary. I did think so. There was an expert for the defense that I think did a pretty good job describing a trauma response, and I just want to counter because he gave good information, but you don't want to act out of your animal brain all the time, especially in a situation where you are actually safe. And so that's where I just want to go over all of this. This is a very, very heavy case. Um, Very, very heavy. I did feel like her interrogation videos were telling, especially the one where the officer seemed to ask her if she had researched Florida's stand your ground laws. So this incident happened in Florida, and and so yes. Rochelle, I agree that Susan seemed very rigid in her thinking, and she did not like children. Noise seemed to trigger her, and there is a condition, misophonia. I think that's how you say it. I think Kelly Ripa has talked about having it, but that's where I wish she had gotten earplugs or she had done something that she could control because the children were allowed to play outside. If I live close I've lived close to military bases before, and we used to call it the sounds of freedom because every so often we would hear, different booms, different things, but we chose to live close to a military base and there was loud flying. It would be like living close to an airport and being mad that you're hearing planes all the time. She seemed to be really, really annoyed by children, and it's us. And misophonia is real. So I can't stand tapping. So there are some court feeds that trigger me, and I love watching Emily D. Baker because a lot of the things that trigger her trigger me too. And so like I so like if there's tapping, there are certain things that just drive me up a wall. But what I would do is if somebody is doing that, I would do what I can do. I wouldn't expect them to change their behavior. And she seemed to think it was the children's job to not be children and that she should just be able to do whatever she wanted to do, which is yes. And so sounds of freedom. I've heard a little bit of everything. I had family that used to live on Aberdeen Proving Ground. We would feel the ground shake. That's an army base up in Maryland, and I used to go visit them for the summer. We would hear all kinds of things. Hey, Lisa, just watch some of the numerous calls she made to the police. She even tried to quiet the police talking with the other residents. Wow. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. So let's go on ahead and see where some of this started before the incident. All right. And so this is just one of the calls. There are so many. Like I could show y'all so many videos. This is Susan's house. She has called the police, and then the police are going to talk to the children. Okay.
Her no trespassing sign was stolen again.
What's going on this evening?
Lots of children screaming their full heads off, running around. I had my truck parked in front here, so I didn't have to listen to the screaming and yelling. As soon as I moved the truck, the kids were coming up. I'm like, guys, stop. They know they're not supposed to be over here. They've been told many times. They've previously stolen the trespassing sign.
Lorincz then says someone approached her front door, threatening her.
And the little kid tells me to shut up to my face. I said, don't be disrespectful to me. And we're just exchanging words back and forth. I'm like, listen, my name is Doc.
And why is she arguing with children? Why, oh, why is she arguing with children? I don't even know. Jessica, thank you for the super chat. She seemed like a very big bully. I love this right here. Teacup cranking. If a sound is getting to me, I do my best to separate myself from the sound or vibration. Exactly. Yes. So I was in the chat for Melanie Little, and we did connect on Instagram. And I do hope that Melanie Little is a lawyer here on YouTube. And so I do hope that we're able to connect. I think we're going to try to do the Ashley Benefield case together and talk about it. But yeah. Her neighbor who shared the wall to her house was completely different. She seemed to not mind the noise of the children. And so Susan is going to talk about having migraines. She is going to talk about some valid things, but her behavior went above and beyond anything that could be considered reasonable. Okay. And she's like, Lisa, the entitlement of she's renting that place, but she thinks she's entitled to direct what can and can't happen on this separate property. The entitlement was just, good gosh. Let's keep going.
Don't tell me to shut up, and he was calling me names. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I said, go wherever you live. Listen, you're not going to come knock. His mother comes over here. If you treat my son like that again, I'm going to rip your ass out and go beat you up. Excuse me? I don't bloody well finish that. And I said, see that no trespassing sign? Get off my porch. And no, I'm not going to. I said, no, I'm calling the sheriff's department. I don't know who the hell she was, but.
Do you know where she lives?
I guess somewhere in there.
Do you know what she looks like?
She was black in the 20s, 30s, but I'm not going to take this.
As this reporting continues, the sheriff's deputy looks for the woman who allegedly threatened Lorincz. In the process, he hears from some neighborhood kids who describe their interaction with her.
So, were you the guys that this lady was mad about?
Yes, and I just want to say that every time, like even if we're not.
Hold on. Let's bring it down.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You're okay.
Every time, even if we're not on her property and we're just like being loud and playing basketball over there because there's a basketball hoop.
I got you.
Like she just calls us names.
Okay.
Yeah, like literally, literally all the kids, because that's an open spot right there.
Yeah.
All that is not her property.
I got
The
you.
guy that I was just telling this officer right here, this guy has said numerous times, y'all come over here and play, because they all like to play football.
Okay.
So he's okay with it, and that's where they mainly are. They're more on his side.
What kind of names is she calling you guys?
The B word.
The B word.
The P word. Everywhere in the hood. Like one time the kids were playing right there, and it was his dad outside. And then she came out yelling at
Cowboy?
my dad.
She came out yelling, and she was talking about a little girl getting raped and stuff. Like she's crazy. Like she'll come out just
Yeah,
yelling
she
about.
just says weird. Like I have said stuff to her before because One time I was just happened to come outside, and she was calling them. I'm like, hey, like, relax. I'm like, these are kids here.
So it's my understanding it's in a police report that she admitted to calling some of the kids the N-word. And I don't know if that's what was bleeped out, but that is in a police report. And so to me, she's being immature and expecting this blind obedience from children that she has. So, first of all, I don't believe in blind obedience anyway, but like she's expecting these kids to listen to her. And she is from a generation where maybe mm, mm, eh, I'm trying to be nice, but maybe uh, I don't know. Y'all let me know in the chat. Cause there was a generation where you could have that person in the neighborhood that would yell and scream at kids, but this isn't okay. You can't talk to my child that way. I would have had a problem with this. If and this is why so my kid is 7 years old, and if he's playing outside, he's within my earshot. So I wouldn't be inside with him playing outside. I have neighbors that do that, and you know, it's fine. But for me personally, I'm just very cautious because if I did hear my kids, somebody, a neighbor talking to my kid some kind of way, I'm gonna go over because you need to talk to me. Don't talk to my child. So if one of my neighbor's kids did something, I would ask, so where, or I would know where they live, and I would go and have a conversation with the adult. I have nothing to say to the child, but I'm rational. So
But if you guys have permission to be over there, then I can't really get on you guys too much. But if someone's going on her property, which is just her porch, it's not okay. I'm not saying you did. She's claiming you did.
Yeah.
I wasn't here to see it, so I can't go one way or the other. All right.
Yeah,
If she starts screaming at you guys, I want you to go tell an adult. Okay. I don't want you to antagonize her. Okay. Because what happens is when you guys antagonize her, she can make you guys.
So, and I think the police officer was believing the children, and I don't even know if the children were doing, and they might have just said like, I don't know, like, "You're not my mom," or I don't think the kids were, I don't know what the kids were doing, but
Guys look bad, and you guys are just out here playing, right?
But in a separate recording from that same evening, Lawrence says her landlord said the kids weren't allowed on her property.
and
They've been told by Charles not to come on the property. Charles is the owner of the building. They got told, he said, kids, like I said, they stole the trespassing sign. Kids, okay, it wasn't trespassing sign. It was supposed to have it out. That's why the original trespassing, no trespassing.
Sheriff's deputies explained that every time Lawrence calls law enforcement, reports will be documented from both sides.
So we've instructed the kids to not bother you, okay, or if you come out and you say something to them, they're supposed to go get their parents and what about oh no, that, honestly, God, she said that. We've also explained to her that if there's any future problems, that either she calls or now if there's a future problem, she calls. Okay. It is going to be documented that, okay, that's what you're claiming she said, but it's also going to be documented what she knows.
Moving into 2023, Lawrence's complaints continued.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Aggravated.
Okay. So what's going on?
Okay, I've got young ladies who just keep coming by and think it's hysterical while I'm working to bring their animals, and
she's an insurance agent, and she used to go outside of, so she has that little fenced area, and the children are not coming in there. The kids are in the large open field, and everybody lets their dogs go there. Like it's just an open field that everybody uses.
scream while I'm on the phone. There's signs, no trespassing by the windows for a reason. There's no trespassing because they can't be here. And then they're sitting here telling me, okay, well, enough. They need to be trespassed the hell out of here.
The police can't do that, ma'am. The police can't do that. And I think they're going to tell her, I don't know if it's during this video, but they're going to tell her that like it's fine, that the kids are able to be there. I want to skip ahead to this to what the neighbor has to say.
I can't control everybody 100% of the time.
Sheriff's deputies then speak with the neighbor who Lorincz originally said was trespassing. According to him, Lorincz threatens kids playing outside.
And that's something that's when I figured she's not over there, because every time the kids are playing here, we're doing jump ropes, whatever, she gets her vehicle, she goes, I'm like, lady, you gotta be careful. Yeah, I mean, that's when I say, like,
Was it your kids that came?
nah, it's the whole neighborhood, man. We always play here, so we do jump rope, we do a little bit of everything. This is just an open field, you know. It belongs to both property, you know what I'm saying? So if the kids want to play there, whatever. And that's what I keep telling her. Hey, as long as you don't get in her door, you don't start throwing rocks, don't be cursing at her, it's okay. She can cup the cups whenever she wants. But and I was trying to reason with her one day because we were all playing here. You know, the kids, everything jumping. All right, let's go. And she's like, hey, you know what? One day you guys are gonna die. And I'm like, and that's when
And I don't think this video, I don't know that this one came into court. So I think these are little like townhouses, like 1 story. I think they're like units. So I don't know if they're duplexes or maybe if there are 4. I don't know if there are 4 attached, but it looks like they are different units. And Ajike, AJ, lived across the street.
and like, whoa.
As this conversation is ongoing, Lorincz even comes back outside to interrupt.
Hey,
I'm getting too much feedback on the phone from the dog.
Sure.
Go someplace where he's not barking. Please, I'm getting too much feedback.
So she works from home, but she lives in a neighborhood that's not completely quiet. And so that's not their fault. So while I'm doing telehealth, one of my neighbors, like they could stand because we have a sidewalk that everybody can use. And it technically runs on my property, but like it's a community sidewalk that everybody can use. And so if somebody stopped in front of my house and just their dog, they're talking to a neighbor or something, and their dog is going at it, you all might hear that. Or while I'm doing telehealth, somebody might hear that. I'm not going to go outside and ask my neighbor to move or anything. I've had neighbors, do fireworks at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't know if they were people that lived here. It might have been people from surrounding areas that came to do that around 4th of July and everything. But sometimes things happen and those things are out of your control. And it's almost like she felt like the police would do her bidding.
I can't hear my customers. Dog. Kathy.
It's a dog. We can't stop the dog from barking.
Yeah, but it's too much feedback. Can you please at least go someplace where I'm not getting so much feedback?
That's
All right. Well, you have a good one. Apparently, we can't stay here and have a conversation and shit.
that's what I'm saying.
So,
That's what I'm saying. She's not over there, right?
On yet another call, Lorincz reports a neighbor kid wanted to show her a puppy, and she disapproved.
Okay, what's going on?
The kid's from across the street and his little buddies. They're over here. They're stepping on the signs and stuff. He brings out a puppy. He wants to put his puppy in my truck. I don't go for that.
In the bed of your truck?
Yeah.
Who?
This little child who posed for me because he thought he was being so bloody cute. That little child.
And I think the child probably posed because she was taking pictures of him and everything. I think at the beginning of this, I think one of these I had, yes. So this is the one where this is actually Ajike. And this was an incident that the two of them had. Looks like this is February of 2022. So I'm just going to show this part, and then we're going to get into some of the testimony from court.
Actually get physical with me.
Worked out the sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's not cool. You don't get physical.
And so she's alleging that Ajike picked up the sign and threw it at her, and it's just not what happened.
She just threw it.
No, she whipped it at me. I mean, she hit me.
But Owens told a different story.
Showing her sign, show her sign, like almost like she wants to She went and bought a little private property sign and she stuck it in there. So she left the sign and she's basically like banging the sign in my face. And then she went to pick it back up. I picked the sign up and I threw the sign. I literally picked the sign up, and as I walked off, I threw the sign. I said, I can go and buy a sign too. It still doesn't mean anything. At that point, I guess she's already on the phone and I'm being attacked. Someone's attacking me. I'm literally in the street now, proceeding to come over here. Everybody's
Where this happened?
right over here behind the mailbox.
Okay.
Other neighbors backed up Owens, saying she never hit Lorincz.
Yeah, she didn't touch that lady. She just took the thing out the ground, and that was it.
What thing?
The thing, the no trespassing thing. She didn't touch it. No, she didn't throw it at her leg. She did not throw the damn thing.
That's what London said, because London was a...
No, she didn't throw it.
No, she kind of tossed it.
Shut up. He's not over here talking. She just set it down. And the lady just happened to be there. She didn't throw it at the lady. She didn't touch the lady or nothing. But even... And all she did was tell the lady to stop yelling at her kids. That lady yells at everybody's kids out here.
Okay. Well, I mean, I wouldn't go over there anymore.
Owens
All right. All right. So let's get to just a little bit of her police interview. Okay. And this is after the incident. All right. Because so in June of 2023, the allegation is that AJ's kids were out playing and something happened. And the allegation is that Susan was throwing things at the kids. And that appropriately probably infuriated AJ. And I think there were concerns that I think she had taken that Susan had taken one of the kids' tablets. And so AJ just went over to the house and was knocking on the lady's door because she was trying to have a conversation with her. All right. So let's look. And Susan used a pew-pew through her locked. So she had a solid door and she fired a shot through the door that ultimately killed Ajike. And so my heart truly breaks for her family. Down in the description, because I saw that AJ's mom and 10-year-old son went on The View, and the two of her kids were invited to this camp. And I have information for that camp. It's for children who have lost a parent. Now, I do think because the camp, it's not for kids that have lost parents in a tragic way, because it's different losing a parent to cancer or a car accident and then your parent being murdered. That's a different kind of grief. And so I did but it's still like other kids that have lost a parent, and they're able to just connect with other kids that are in a similar situation. So let me just find the video. All right, so let's share this one. All right, yeah. Okay, so I want to say this is on the day of the incident. So we're just going to listen to a little bit of this.
So let me just understand this a little better, because I'm not really sure. So the woman that got shot, what is her name?
AJ.
AJ, right? It's AJ.
Yeah.
Okay, and how long have you known her?
I really didn't know her. I just, she was a neighbor across the street.
Okay, so how long has she been a neighbor across the street from you? Help me understand that.
A year and a half, 2 years.
Okay, year and a half and 2 years. And in that year and a half and 2 years, how many times have you guys been able to talk?
We never talked. It's more like screaming.
No, okay, all right. So maybe the better word would be communicate. How many times have you guys been able to communicate in that year and a half or 2 years?
2 or 3 times.
2 or 3 times. And in those 2 or 3 times over a year and a half and 2 years, what were you guys screaming about? What were you guys communicating about?
She would take her dog and walk it on my sidewalk to make sure it shit on the sidewalk. And
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Of all the places you can walk and take your animal, you're going to come here. And she
Sure.
said, it's the only place my dog will go to the bathroom.
Okay. So,
No, I don't think so.
okay. So you guys would have a disagreement regarding that, some screaming.
So once again, I have neighbors whose dogs use the bathroom, and in my yard. Okay. Our neighbor, so there's a community Facebook group, and people that don't clean up after their dog, people will post it on Facebook. And if they have it on their Ring camera, they will post pictures of the person who's not picking up after their dog. But people will put up signs, because if a dog urinates in my grass, I don't have a dog, but it does kill the grass, blah blah blah. But like, they're dogs, and people their dogs are gonna go in my grass. So it's just something that's gonna happen. Okay. And but my thing is, just pick up after your dog, because I don't want poop. Like, I don't have a dog. I don't want to step on dog poop. And one time, I think it was my husband, who saw somebody's dog poop in our yard, and the person was about to walk away. And my husband was like, "Do you need a bag?" Like, open the door. Do you need a bag? And the person was like, "Oh no." And the person reached up, they picked up the poop, and they continued on their way. Okay. Because my thing is, hey, if your dog goes in my yard, just pick it up. I don't care. Just pick it up. But she can't say your dog can't, like if somebody's on the sidewalk, because typically the sidewalk is where everybody can walk. That's not, it's the sidewalk, but she doesn't own that piece of the sidewalk. Because even so, I own my home, and there's a piece of shared strip. So from the sidewalk to the curb, that's owned by the that is not my easement. That is not a part of my property. That is technically public access. So anybody can, and often the dogs do go on that public side. They don't go on like my big grass. If they sometimes, but like normally it's on that side that's closer to the sidewalk, and because there's a strip of grass between the sidewalk and the curb. And so in our community, everybody just does that. And do people get pissed about it? Yes. Okay. People complain on Facebook. People put up signs about, like, don't let your dog, but like, it's gonna happen. It is what it is. Okay. Okay.
Regarding the dog pooping where it shouldn't, what else would you guys communicate about in that 2 or 3 times?
Then one time she was talking to the neighbors, and she said, "Oh, that bitch over there is crazy." And I went, "No, I'm not gonna, sorry." I walked over, I said, "What is your problem?" And she just went on a tirade. I have never heard someone scream like this woman. I was like, Jesus Christ.
So, the way that she's talking about this, she's not talking about how she is arguing at children, and how she's calling children like our words, and like that she's having inappropriate conversations with children, in my opinion.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, she exploded. And I'm like, oh shit.
How long ago was that?
About 2 months ago.
2 months.
2-3 months ago. And then she was saying I called her kids all kinds of names, and I'm like, no, I didn't. And the more I said no, the more irate she got. Finally, I'm like, let me just back off, say yes, I'll apologize, and scurry away.
I don't believe that happened, but because with the officer right there, she's still trying to be like, go somewhere. I can't hear my customer. I don't know that it happened that way. I could be wrong, but based on her other behavior, I think she's trying to play the victim, in my personal opinion. She's trying to play the victim in front of the police officer.
What kind of things was she saying that you called her kids?
That I called them racial slurs, that I called them slaves, and that's never happened. I mean, when she said, "Oh, why don't you stop already? Stop lying," And I was like,
Okay, but then we're talking about what happened there today, and this woman that she passed away. You said that you guys had yelled at each other 3 or 4 times in about a year and a half to 2 years. Is that right?
Yes.
And the last time she yelled at you a lot. Did you ever, I worked as a patrol deputy for years before becoming a detective. Did you guys ever get in like a fight in the street or anything like that? No, nothing like that.
You can't be kidding me.
I'm
sorry.
I got to ask, because I don't know you that well.
Okay.
Did she ever brandish a weapon or anything like that, or something?
The only thing she ever did is she picked up the no trespassing sign and threw it at me and hit me.
Okay. And
She called it. I don't believe that it actually hit her, or if it did, I don't know.
And I know that the police came out a lot of times. Did the police ever come out for that time when she threw the sign?
Yeah, and then everybody in the neighborhood said, "Oh, we didn't see anything."
Okay.
So it was a he said, she said. So they said they couldn't charge anything.
Sure.
I'm like, All right.
And obviously you have a firearm. I haven't had a chance to ask you about this. Now, is that a gun that you've had for years? You just had it for a couple of weeks? Help me understand that.
No, over a year.
Okay, over a year. And where do you normally keep that secured in the house?
That's usually next. It was in a garbage can next.
Okay, so she's going to talk about keeping it in her garbage can. She's going to talk about purchasing it after having an argument with Ajike. All right, I'm going to come up to about here.
There was a wood piece
in the slider.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Because she's going to talk about being so afraid for her life while AJ is banging on the door, that's why she did what she did. And the police are going to ask really great questions because, correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, I believe one of AJ's children were standing right beside her. Maybe one or two of her children were there with her, and they saw this happen. Correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. So she could have hit one of the children.
and you don't recall if she tried that door?
I just remember lots of pounding.
Lots of pounding.
You know, just to me, it was just an enormous amount of pounding, screaming, yelling, and I felt like she was going to come through that door.
So that's where where the firearm actually was, and I believe both firearms were in that garbage can, because the one she used was actually under one that she didn't use. One that she didn't use was on top, because the police are going to ask her about that. We're not really going to get into that. We're just kind of getting an idea
I think
of her.
Detective Pender touched on it. Like in your head, what during the panic, during all these thoughts, what did you feel that was going to happen?
And she's going to come in there and beat the shit out of me until I was dead.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I felt. I mean, I don't understand why she came over my house. If there was all these issues and problems, why didn't she just call somebody?
So, but Susan's the one that always called the police. Ajike didn't. Like, I think AJ was just like, let me just talk to my neighbor. Like let's just stop throwing stuff at my kids. Like, I think AJ just wanted to have a conversation with her. I don't think AJ was ever going to lay a hand on her.
To me, that's what you would do if you're normal. That's a normal thing to do. If something happens to me, I call the police. Like, okay, the kids are being lying or she's banging and, but when I couldn't find my phone and everything, I was just like, shit. I honestly, I felt she was going to kill me.
Okay, so during that time, you had hung up with 911. You still estimate approximately 10 minutes before the banging started.
Yes.
So the jury asked to hear both 911 calls, because there was about, I think, a 2-minute, so Susan called 911, and then she called, and then after the incident, she called them again, and the jury asked to hear that call again. The jury asked the question, when was the door damaged? And because I think they were trying to figure out, did Ajike damage the door? And they were unable, the jury had to look back at the evidence to figure out the answer to that. They weren't able to tell them exactly when that happened. Those were the two jury questions that I saw.
And then you're saying anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes or longer that the banging and the yelling lasted. However, as Detective Pender mentioned, we've reviewed video. We've talked to multiple people out there who all kind of give the similar. I mean, everybody's perspective is different, and that's why I asked you this same question a couple of times, because people's perspectives, we could be both looking at the same thing, and later on you ask me one, and you ask us the same question, we have different reactions, different answers.
And that's where perceptions can be different, but I think this was wrong. Jermaine, thank you for the super chat. I consider myself an avid, responsible firearm owner, also ex-military. I would never keep that on a garbage can. Agreed. I have multiple family members that are retired military, that are active military. Many of them have PTSD. Many of them, and what they do, they have biometric safes because they live with children. And so in order to keep their pew-pews safe, they make sure to keep them away from children. So they have a quick biometric And some of my relatives, they conceal carry, and but they are responsible. And fear is real, but fear can cloud your judgment. It can change. And to me, the jury found she was still responsible for her behavior. And there's a part of this was, could it have been second degree? So they only charged her with first degree. I feel that her behavior was reckless, and I wish the state had tried for second degree. Like, I don't know why the state didn't at least try. So she was found guilty of manslaughter. I don't think the state even tried for second degree because there was a closed door. It seems like where the where everything was, there's a piece of my mind that was just like, was she like, if that bee comes back to my house, I'm gonna like, was it part of this? Mm, nah, I don't know. So I might have went with second degree, but I'm not a lawyer. I just have thoughts.
Because we focus on different things, we remember different things. That's why everybody's unique, and that's just the way it is. But to be that similar in some of the specifics of what we're really looking at, we're talking about a very tight, a much more tighter time frame of this incident that happened at your front door before that shot was fired. So is that possible? Is that feasible that it was a shorter time frame?
To me, it felt, I mean, I'm giving you what I felt and what I thought it was.
Okay.
You know?
All right.
Now that you're out of the moment,
Mhm.
I mean, do you think that she could somehow get through that wall now that you're out, now that you're not in the house anymore, and that
I
you
still feel that fear. I just still feel she was coming at me. I'm sorry. It's where I feel.
okay?
I just, it's been playing in my head over and over again. And I just kept thinking of that and how terrified I was.
Was your goal to shoot and kill her?
No.
What was your goal?
To shoot and hopefully, she'd hear the shot and dissipate.
But you took aim at the door, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And the goal was to strike the door and to dissipate it. I'm having a really hard time making this jump here that this unarmed person on the other side of the wall is somehow gonna get into your house and kill you. I'm just really having a hard time getting there. Some of these doors open inwards, outwards. I don't know which way your door opens. Which way does it open? It opens outward?
I think it opens out.
Okay. So
It
opens inwards.
It opens inwards. Okay. So I'm really having a hard time understanding like how if you could go back in time, would you not do what you did? Would you take it back and I don't know, wait however long it took for the police to get there? I'm trying to understand that. Would you feel like you did something wrong here?
I did what I felt I had to. I honestly thought she was going to kill me. I mean, that's all I felt. I just felt that terror. I mean, it was sheer terror.
So I went out to the house that morning, when I met you out there. And first of all, I looked at the door. We processed the door just to see what areas might have been touched by AJ. I looked at the door frame where it had been repaired. It looked like there was a type of putty or something used where the wood frame had been separated. I examined the deadbolt lock, the strike plates were in there pretty fastened, pretty securely. The bottom lock, just the doorknob lock. And even when the door closed, I stood on the outside. There were no indentations, no dents in the door anywhere that I could see. I'm not trying to take away the fears of being scared and everything, because I think that is a legitimate, scary situation to be put in. But to justify to go from being scared to a point where you're taking deadly force on someone who's standing on the other side of the door and you don't even know where you're shooting at. That's a big jump, and I think that's where Detective Penders.
It could have been one of the kids standing there or something.
But it was her standing there. I mean, I heard her voice.
Sure, but some people don't talk. They're more quiet. So you've never had a break-in there before, right? Okay, no break-ins there. There's the rod in the track.
they're gonna get, because she's gonna specifically use some language that's from Stand Your Ground. And if you'd like to go back and watch that full thing, please do. Um, they had their expert, so that talked about fear in the brain. The information he's giving is accurate, but you don't want to act from this place of fear, because he's going to talk about that we can make incorrect judgments based on bias. And he's not going to include racial bias. I will, because I'm here. And so and the judge kept out because one of the witnesses was going to describe the neighborhood as the hood, and it was a predominantly Black area, and hood was going to have a certain but like, so the person could use other language of saying it's a, if it was true that the area was lower income or something like that, they could use some other language, but that they couldn't describe it as the hood. And when you get down to manslaughter, because that's what she was ultimately charged with and what she was found guilty of, her behavior was negligent and it resulted in somebody's death. And AJ mattered. She matters to her family. It sounds like the family is doing what they can to continue to move forward. I don't. We'll see if I play it, because AJ, I think it's AJ's mom that kind of breaks down after like the verdict is read and everything. And Susan has no response, no response at all. Um, yeah. So this is the defense expert. He has a doctorate in education. And the prosecution is going to point out that he is not an expert in the field of psychology. I think he came across well. He came across knowledgeable. The jury did not buy that this should lead to a not guilty verdict.
If we can start the firework round. Let's start off with broadly. Is there a psychological explanation for how?
Okay, so this one, if y'all have headphones in or anything, this one is only playing in my left ear. So I think it's called mono. So this one is only playing. So if it's coming out that way on your stream too, because I'm restreaming it through StreamYard, it might play out different. But for me, it's only coming in on the left, just in case it sounds extremely low to you.
People detect danger during uncertain situations.
Yes.
And what is that? Just a very brief overview before we get into it.
Okay, so I'm going to speed him up to like 1.25. We'll see how it goes with the 1.25. Wait a minute. Nope. I want speed. Let's just try 1.25 and see how it goes.
When you have a stimulus in the environment, it's usually presented against what we call background of noise. Other things are happening, and you're trying to decipher what is in fact happening. And that's known as signal detection theory, the idea that you're looking for the brightest signal in the environment to suggest what may be happening.
Okay. And can you give us an example of what you're speaking of?
I'll speak to the chart that I see up if that's
Sure,
instead of coming up with a separate example. But for example, many of the self-defense cases that I'm involved with are during that predictive period where a person is unsure about what's going to happen in the next moment. And in this case, I've just indicated perhaps somebody believes maybe you have a gun, maybe you don't have a gun. And those are the two absolutes. You either do or you don't. Now, under signal detection theory, as a theoretical framework, what you're looking for in the environment is information that suggests either there is no gun or there is a gun. So this first slide that you're looking at right here, you can see there are two distributions. Those distributions are going to have brighter or less bright signals that are going to accumulate around the mean. That's the center line. So as you see on the left, that's the belief there's no gun. On the right, there's a belief.
And so basically what he's saying is that when you don't have a lot of time and maybe there's high anxiety, that you might make an error. And we don't want people to make errors because it can cause problems. And this is where police officers and regular citizens, everybody needs training. And when you're in a stressful situation, the biggest thing I need to do, I don't want to make a decision out of my amygdala. I want to use my thinking brain, because I want to be vigilant. I don't want to be hyper vigilant. If I respond out of hyper vigilance, I could make an error. And I am glad that people are being held accountable for for these things. And I don't know if it was fully just an error. There was so much that had happened. There had been so many escalations. We did not go through every single police call that she had made about the things that had happened. And so I liked this expert's testimony because, like I said, the information he's saying is accurate. But as a clinical psychologist, I want to provide the other side of how people can do better. And so, yes, Zoe, Susan did live alone, and I don't know if she'd only been there for, I think, 2 years. So this isn't a neighborhood that she grew up in. I don't know what happened for her to get there. I don't know if she had issues in other neighborhoods. I don't know what happened. I wish she had lived in a 55 and up community. I still think she would have had issues with dogs barking. Like, the smallest things seemed to bother her. She needed to go to some isolated farm where she was only housed for like 3 miles or something. Like, that's the type of housing she needed. And I still feel like she would have found something, because there's some people that their brain looks for problems. I'll like, where they're almost addicted to chaos and drama, where it's just like something's just always wrong. Like, you can never do enough to please them. Because I'm sure the kids tried to be careful. I'm sure that, like, I don't think the kids were antagonizing her on purpose. They were just being kids. And the smallest thing seemed to really trigger her. And that's where I want people to be responsible for their triggers. And I've worked with clients that have experienced significant trauma, and their alarm system, their fight or flight, that system is stuck on. And we talk about things they can do to regulate themselves, things they can do to create a safer, happier. Maybe she needed to go to the library to work quietly or something. Like maybe there was some other option, but I don't think she wanted to do anything different. I think she thought she deserved to be able to do what she wanted to do, and she wanted everybody else to change. But that's a victim mentality and not a survivor mentality. A survivor mentality is where I take responsibility for my actions. I look at what I can control. I let go of what I can't. So if one of my neighbors does let their dog poop in my yard, so have I ever found poop in my yard? Yes. um, it it happens. Did I, like, take a picture and post it on Facebook? No. Like, that's just I have better things to do with my life. Like, no. Was I upset for a moment? Yes. So it's a normal reaction to get upset for a moment. She, in my opinion, took it way too far. Way, way, way too far. And so, alright, I'm gonna keep going. But so, and I would give her some. She complained all the time. It was February. It wasn't only the summer. She complained all the time. It wasn't only the summer. Eh.
Without perhaps having all the information that you have if you had lots of time.
And the last one, the last graph, you have a short amount of time and high consequences.
Right. So you can see on this chart, when you have a short amount of time, in other words, something's happening very, very quickly, it's rapidly unfolding, and the consequences are very high. This is where we see D prime get really small. These two distributions come together, and the bias in this case has to be, once again, either liberal or conservative towards you don't think they have a gun or you do think they have a gun. Now, what we see here is the error is significantly higher than it is in all the other circumstances because of the short amount of time and the high consequences. And that just simply means that you may be making the wrong choice, but you feel like you have to make a choice at some level. So what we know about this, though, is that during these periods, there are what are known as type 1 and type 2 errors. So type 1s, I think we often refer to at the high school level are these false positives that you think something is there that isn't there. And then a type 2 error would be a false negative, where you don't think something is there when in fact something is there. And what we know about signal detection theory, certainly when it comes to survival, it always favors type 1. So if the time pressure is low, the consequences are high, then the decision will be towards thinking there's a gun if there's not one, over not thinking there's a gun if there is one, for I think obvious reasons.
And generally, in the most simplistic way possible, what do these models that you just explained show in regard to human behavior in certain situations?
Well, in all situations, I think any situation, whether it is considered a critical incident where something is rapidly unfolded and the consequences are very high, or it's just, the decision on, what bill should I pay today because I have only so much money. This chart applies to all different types of decisions in all different domains. It's been used for, gosh, I don't know, probably well over 80 years. Okay.
And what are the two systems of thinking that dominate judgment and decision-making in certain situations?
So your brain works differently under different conditions.
So I'm gonna pause. He's talking about brain working different in different conditions. So with the top floor, the cool thing is you don't hear stuff above you. So I don't like hearing like boom, boom, boom. Like I personally don't like that. I have had first floor apartments before and just dealt with it. Like if I have a first floor apartment, it is what it is. Okay. And so it just things happen. Welcome from Grizzly. I saw that she was streaming earlier, and so welcome. But I just I just think to people have to be so to me, she didn't seem to have any remorse even after the fact, even after knowing AJ had no weapon. And I think she used her fear to rationalize her behavior and she felt justified in it. And it'll be interesting to see what happens at sentencing. She is gonna have a pre-sentence report. The victims are likely gonna come and give statements. The children are probably going to make statements if they can. If, I could imagine the 10-year-old, coming and making a statement and, because I think 2 of the children might have testified. I think they closed the courtroom for that part. Correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. Because I saw some streams go black for a period of time when they said that the children were testifying. Um, that had to be a lot from the jury. Seeing the kids talk about, um, yeah. So I don't know what happened in court during that time, but I can just imagine.
Most of the time, as you are going through life, you're using system one. System one, as you can see here on the chart, is a very automatic, rapid, and efficient system. It was evolutionarily probably designed to get you easily through life with very low energy costs. It's a system that is somewhat non-conscious and it has a very high capacity for what we call task switching. You can move from thing to thing very rapidly because you're not spending a lot of time thinking about stuff. It's kind of like driving to work, for example. Very few of us are contemplating every left turn and every blinker. We're just doing it kind of automatically. That's how our brains function. It also is called upon during critical periods. And the reason that happens is because system two, which I'll talk about now, which is the other part of your brain, a very, very controlled, very analytical, very deliberate type of thinking, is usually called upon by system one when there seems to be some sort of a cognitive crisis, like system one.
And I think it's important when we talk about emotion and logic, I think it's important to balance the two, and that's what dialectical behavior therapy skills can be really helpful and talking about what are some ways to lower distress tolerance, my triggers, things that trigger me, things that upset me. What skills do I have? What things can I implement that can help me not feel as on edge all of the time? How can I use mindfulness of being in this present moment and not jumping in fear to a dreaded future that hasn't happened yet and not, dwell maybe in the past to be able to enjoy in this moment if I am safe. And not that fear of what if this happens? What if this happens? I have to take a breath and focus on what is. I have a link to my video on how to be less reactive. I talk about amygdala hijack and how the amygdala, that fight, flight, freeze, people please, how that part of the brain can sometimes kick in, but we don't want to live there. We don't want to make, life altering decisions from there. Now, if a bear is chasing me, I'm I need to be safe. But sometimes the brain, that part of the system can get triggered and there is no bear. It just feels that way. And to me, that her behavior, her feeling did not justify that behavior, and the jury agreed.
One can't figure it out. Turns out system two is pretty lazy. It's usually sleeping. We don't like using it. It's high energy cost, which is why it usually is operating in the background and not out front. But interestingly, during high pressure situations, when you have somebody, for example, who's facing a very high consequence, there are neurons that are actually projecting from the limbic system, which is the emotional part of your brain, into that prefrontal cortex that attenuate the prefrontal cortex, almost turning it off. It just goes dark. And the reason for that is because system 2 is not necessary in the next moment. It's too contemplative. It takes too long to figure things out. So the example I always give is if you see, for example, I don't know, our ancestors walking across the Serengeti would see a saber-toothed tiger. The question is not, I wonder if he's hungry. That is a system 2 question. It's contemplative. There's a lot of wonder there. What happens is system 2 turns off and system 1 takes over, and it only thinks of what are known as heuristics. These are these snap decisions. Run, jump, hide, swim, whatever's available to you. So system 1 is in charge during critical incidents. It's not something that we plan for. It's just the way our evolution has designed us to keep.
And I get what he's saying, and I don't think that's how we should live all of the time. So he talks about critical incident response. He's brought in for self-defense. I've linked a video called Tools for Hope down in the description where this Dr. Eric Gentry, he used to go and train police officers of how to react from how to be vigilant versus hypervigilant, how to improve their their accuracy, how to lower, issues. And it doesn't just work for police officers, it actually works for therapists with resilience. It works with stress and compassion fatigue and all these other things, because it helps make sure that there is stress and then there's the effects of stress. And often what causes the pain is the effects of stress. And if I can lessen the effect that stress has on my body, then I can end up living a happier, healthier life. And so Tools for Hope, I included the link down in the description. I will just share, because our sympathetic nervous system, that's what he's talking about. Our amygdala senses a threat. Our hypothalamus causes release of adrenaline, that release of cortisol from the adrenal cortex, and then our body has a response. And our goal is to not stay there. And so smoke alarms are really helpful until they're not. And the reason why I'm laughing is because that's something that irritates me when a smoke alarm is doing that beeping thing, because you need a new battery. Like I will drive to our local store at 2 o'clock in the morning, or actually what I do is I just figure out a way to disconnect the fire alarm so that it just stops making the noise. And like I don't do beeping. Okay. That I just beeping that I have no control over. That is just something that is an issue for me. I don't do ticking. So no clocks in my office or in my rooms. Or in my home, I don't have ticking clocks. I can be in a room with a ticking clock, but the whole time it's hard for me to focus. I've talked here. I likely have ADHD, and my brain, when there's ticking, I can't drown that out. like the ticking just takes over. I'll never forget. I had an office with a ticking clock, and one day in the middle of a session, I was like, "Hold on, real quick." And I got up in the middle of the session. I took that clock off my wall. It wasn't so I was using the office, but it wasn't my personal office. And I put the clock outside the door, and I was like, "All right, please continue." Like I was like, "I'm sorry." It was getting to me. I couldn't do it. And so somebody mentioned listening to my channel late at night, that this was calming for them. I love that. I listen to YouTube on a high speed, and so that's why sometimes might not be as calming for me. But this video talks about self-regulation, that we have good stress and distress causes fatigue, exhaustion, and breakdown. But there are things that I can do to be able to be in this optimal performance where I can experience some stress and still be strong. But sometimes it means learning different things to do. And so I have a link to this down in the description. We're gonna get back to him. I wanted to talk about the information. The jury did not buy this.
Keep us safe and keep us alive.
And so many times in stressful situations, commonly people like yourselves think about the fight or flight situation. Will you speak to the jury about that? Sure. Fight or flight situation, once again, is not something we plan for. It's not something you contemplate. It just sort of happens. So in your brain resides this little area here that's sort of an almond-shaped group of nerves and cells called the amygdala. And the amygdala is on constant watch. It's looking for danger from crossing the street or perhaps from walking in a dark alley, whatever the case may be. When the amygdala senses danger or potential danger, it starts alerting different parts of your brain. If you look at the chart up here, you can see the hypothalamus out there, which is just sort of like governing everything. It's notified by the amygdala that there may be danger present. And what it does is it starts through chemical processes secreting hormones. These are called catecholamines, these stress hormones. The hypothalamus is then going to affect the pituitary gland, which you can see right there, sort of under the nose. Pituitary gland is responsible for producing more stress hormones. One of them is called ACTH, which then travels down through the bloodstream to a word probably you have heard, which is the adrenal glands. You've probably all heard of adrenaline. Adrenal glands secrete the chemicals that
Okay, so I can talk about that a little bit. So we're going to fast forward through his testimony a little bit. And so pretty much he gives some testimony. The jury didn't buy any of this. And so he's talking about stress. It sounds like he didn't assess her, he didn't meet with her or anything like that, because he has his degree in educational psychology, and this is something that he studied. So he is an expert in this, but from an educational side and not a clinical or psychological
create a
side.
high anxiety.
Yes.
If you make the wrong decision, you could be seriously injured or seriously injure somebody else.
Hold on, let me see. Let me go back. Let me see if this is the cross-examination.
Shared with the court and jury today within a reasonable degree of scientific and use
So this is the defense closing out, and then we're going to listen to a little bit of the cross-examination.
to force analysis certainty.
They are.
Thank you. No further questions. Thank you, John.
Thank you, sir. Do you want this slide up or now?
Yes. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, so I got a really good question, okay? And so this question is, I've gotten different answers about this, but can CPTSD, so complex PTSD, be healed, or do we just get better at managing it? So with complex PTSD, the thing is that the part about it being complex is that I might heal aspects and there might be something that triggers it 10 years from now. So I look at my clients that have complex PTSD. We might resolve their symptoms for a period of time and they might have to come back. So if they have a major loss in their family, if something happens, there might be something that undoes the work that we did for that moment, and they haven't failed. They haven't done anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just those symptoms have been reactivated and they might have to come back. It's similar to somebody with diabetes whose medication, normally they're very well controlled, but something might happen in their body, maybe during menopause, or something might happen that resets their body where they need to go back in for, additional testing, additional monitoring. They might have to have their levels adjusted because things happen. So mental health is health. And the health side of it is that a person can resolve aspects and then something could happen that kind of reopen some of those doors. And so they might just need to come back in for a tune-up. I also look at mental health as like car service. So I tell my clients that I work with, I've had the same phone number since high school. And I hate talking on the phone. Like my phone goes to voicemail. I do not talk on the phone very regularly with clients. They have to schedule with me if they want to talk to me on the phone. And really, I'm like, can't we just text? Like, isn't there something that we can resolve? But maybe not. If we need to schedule a call, we do. But with that, I've had people I saw 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 10 years ago message me and say, hey, can I come back in? And honestly, depending on my availability, their insurance, all those things, we do have to have those conversations. That is hilarious, Rachel Ann, because I've lived in Virginia all the time that I've had my phone, so I do still have my Virginia number. I'm here in Virginia. Yes. And so Laura mentioned getting triggered in late 30s and taking a minute to figure that out. Yes. And I don't want people to think that the getting triggered part means that they're doing like, it just means that they need to go back in. Like, it's like, "Oh, I need to recalibrate. Oh, something's off, and I need to go back." And that's okay. So I normalize that, because sometimes when clients come back, they have shame or they're like, "Oh," like, "I was so glad to not need you anymore, and I need you again." And so I tell them that I'm Nanny McPhee, like, when they but those are really for the kids, that when they don't want me but need me, I'm gonna be there. But when they want me but don't need me, like, that's when I kinda go away. But then if they need me again, just depending on situations, we can normally, reopen services, or I help them connect with somebody that's within their network. Let's keep going. So this is the prosecution's, cross-examination.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
You are not a licensed psychologist, correct?
I am not.
Nor are you a
I am.
licensed psychiatrist?
No.
Not a medical doctor?
No.
And you've never counseled or treated patients in a psychological or psychiatric setting?
I have not.
The majority of your life has been involved in law enforcement.
Yes.
And you've actually developed some unique products that law enforcement officers use in their everyday duties, right?
I have, yes.
Your master's degree is in educational psychology, right?
It is, yes.
And you received.
So really, the prosecution is discrediting him. And so Fred mentioned, I bet being a prison psychologist is the toughest job in our field. And so really, it's anything that a person doesn't. So there are prison psychologists that love it. So Dr. G explains, he's a forensic psychologist. I do believe that he works in prisons and then also outpatient, and he loves that. I do not love that. I don't want to work with forensic populations. So I think the wrong psychologist in the wrong job causes problems. And I've learned how to make sure that my work has a minimal impact on me. So I'm not the healer. My clients do the work. I tell them I could be the best therapist in the world and you not get better if you keep doing what you know what I mean. Like, and I give new skills, and I might not be the person to help them in their journey. There might be a different technique. There might be a different person. There might be something else that's more effective for the person. That I can be a good therapist and not be the right fit for this situation, this person, this circumstance. So I've mentioned here, I don't work with SA offenders. I don't, adult. I work with children if they've already gotten that type of treatment, and I'm just helping with maybe past trauma or something like that. I don't work with marriage therapy. Marriage therapy, ugh. Ugh, I would have never wanted to work with Doug and Ashley Benefield. Like, I just no, I don't do marriage work. I don't like it. Adults have the right to say this isn't working. And so I focus on children. I focus on parenting. I also work with adults. So during COVID, I shifted to working more with adults because when the adults are okay, the children can be more okay. So adults kind of fell apart, in 2020. And so I shifted to supporting adults. And just being a mom, I've shifted a lot to working with moms and dads that are looking to break generational trauma and parent differently. So I do a lot of that work, and that's going to be book number 2. So I do have a book, Turning Crisis into Clarity, what is it? Oh my gosh. How to Survive or Thrive. Coming back to the mic. In the Midst of Uncertainty. Available on Amazon. I did the audiobook, but it's a resource. It's a quick read. And really, I wrote that in the midst of a difficult time. And I talk a lot about that survivor, victim mentality, all of that good stuff. There are a lot of great resources in there. Let's listen to him.
That degree, I believe, in 2014.
Yes.
That degree came from the Department of Education, not the Department of Psychology, correct?
That's right.
And you basically went back to school to try to get a better understanding of how to better train law enforcement officers, right?
Yeah, well, to train everyone, I think. At that point, I was already, as I told you, I started as a self-defense instructor. But to understand what happened, why people behave the way they do under stress, that was my big question, why I went back to school.
Would you agree that people have to make split-second decisions every day?
Yep.
I suppose some people do. I don't know if everyone does.
For instance, I'll give you an example that probably everybody in this room has experienced at some point. I'm driving down the road and the car ahead of me slams on its brakes, and I then have a split-second decision to make.
Yes.
Okay, I have to decide, do I have enough time to hit my brakes to avoid making contact with the car ahead of me?
You generally won't make that decision. That'll be an automatic response.
Okay. Would I also have to, well, depending on how much time I have, right?
How much time you have, that's right. If it's way down the road, then yes, you can contemplate it. But if they slam on their brakes so that it has
I did it myself.
a meaningful effect, oftentimes the automaticity of your actions will take over. That system one we talked about will engage. You won't be working off system two.
And that system's going to help me decide, do I hit my brakes to try to avoid? Do I swerve right? Do I swerve left into the oncoming traffic? Or if I know where to go, I just gotta hit the brakes and try to minimize the damage.
If you have the time to do it, yes.
Okay. And the brain makes all of those decisions in a split second, does it not?
Well, not if you're contemplating. If you're contemplating, it could be the course of several seconds, and depending on how much time. I mean, if you're a radar operator with something coming in, it could be several minutes, could be an hour. So,
And that's where I would want my radar so if somebody that is a 911 operator or that's in a high stress job that has to make split second decisions, I would want them to respond and not react. And he's describing, it's almost like he's normalizing people reacting. And I don't think that should be the norm. I want people to respond because we are more accurate when we respond, and we're actually safer. So I'm actually safer when I respond versus reacting. So the person in front of me, far up, might slam on their brakes, and I might not have to slam on mine to avoid hitting, because if I slam on mine, the person, but I don't know, like it can cause chain reactions, and or things can happen. So if I can see in front of them, because maybe they're not paying attention, and I see that traffic is stopping, I can start stopping, and then I won't have to slam on my brakes. And so I really do think there's power in responding and not reacting.
the process once again varies given the context of the danger, I suppose.
And the immediacy of the danger.
The immediacy of the danger will be a system one response.
So Lisa, so this guy is a good expert, okay? I think he did a good job. I think he was the defense's best hope for anything, and he was paid. His testimony, he's a paid expert. They did not go over how much he was paid or anything like that. And so with a degree in educational psychology, because school psychologists often have an educational psychology degree, and there are other degrees, because he never practiced psychology. I think he got the doctorate for additional credibility to, you know, as an expert, it's nice to have the doctor in front of your name. And I think he did additional research. So he likely did a dissertation, because maybe he has a PhD in educational psychology, and he would probably be a good teacher. And it sounds like he's a trainer, and this gave him a little bit of extra credibility, and he can say that this is his field of expertise. And so, like, self-defense, like training people, it sounds like that's what he does. And so, all right, let's keep going.
That situation I just described could be considered a very stressful situation, could it not?
Yes.
Sure.
It could create a high anxiety.
Yes.
If you make the wrong decision, you could be seriously injured or seriously injure somebody else.
Correct.
I would think so.
And people are put in those positions every day, are they not?
Again, yes, I don't know what people you mean. I think the context matters. If you stay home all day reading books, I don't know how many opportunities.
I feel like he just could have let him have that one, but he's okay. But okay, I feel like he could have just said yes and let him have the win on that one.
You have to be placed in high stressful situations, but it is quite common that individuals are forced to make some type of split decision on a daily basis.
Now, obviously, the more time that I have between seeing this immediate threat ahead of me, this car slamming on its brakes, the better ability I have to react.
I would say yes.
And the better ability I have to make a more reasoned and informed decision.
Yes.
If I have 50 feet or 5 seconds to react to this car slamming its brakes on ahead of me, I have a better ability to react than I have if I have an immediate threat and I have 10 feet and a half a second to react.
Well, it depends on, I would say that's true, but it depends on the speed you're traveling as well,
Sure.
of course.
Is that
So he didn't push back with and understand the defense is the one paying him to be there, but I sometimes as an expert witness, if you go back and forth like this, and my just personal thoughts is sometimes it makes you less credible with the jury if you can't just admit some of this stuff.
That's similar to the concept of the signal detection theory that you described earlier.
Kind of. So you're talking about almost an economic model of decision making. Like I can swerve, or I can hit my brakes, or I can go off to the
different options.
Those are picking the best answer between multiple.
Now I feel like her choices were call the police, stay in my locked house, go to bed, like call a friend. I don't know that I don't know. Like she had choices. So that's my own personal thoughts.
Multiple versions of response that you have time to contemplate. Signal detection theory does offer that. But remember, the whole point is uncertainty. In other words, you don't have an answer on what to do. You're not really certain about what to do. So in the backdrop of uncertainty, or when you're trying to decide something is, you're not looking at brake lights coming on. You're trying to decide something unknown. It's a different experience, because what you're having to do is make decisions based on what you don't know, not based on what you do know. You're answering, or to answer your question, knowing that the brake lights come on is something you know.
But you don't know what is going to happen if I choose to swerve right or left or hit the brake.
Well, I think you calculate what will happen, and I think that's fair. But again, the signal detection theory is based on uncertainty. I just don't know what I'm looking at or looking for. I'm leaning in one direction or the other. And this is why the SDTL, we'll call it shortly, is based on what we call liberal and conservative bias, because there's that error component in the prediction level.
When you mentioned touched this earlier, that in a situation where there is stress or anxiety, there's an adrenal response.
Yes.
Okay. And basically adrenaline kicks in and it floods the body and the brain.
Yes.
It makes your lungs work more efficiently.
Yes.
It causes blood vessels to send more blood to your muscles.
There's blood shifts around the body based on where it's needed, but it may go to your
It goes
muscles,
to
some
the
may
core.
go to the viscera. And this is done through the changes in blood vessels.
It typically goes to the core. That's why sometimes people can feel lightheaded during a stress response. Sometimes the fingers and toes can feel tingly because the blood centers to the core. And it's a survival response. The vision often narrows where you can't see as well. Time is often distorted, where things can either feel shorter or longer than they actually were. That's why when I have clients that have panic attacks, I often have them look and time them, just to get a true sense of how long it was, because sometimes it can feel like it was 10 minutes, but when I timed it, it was a minute and a half. Not that that makes it any less painful. I've mentioned here, I do get panic attacks periodically. It's not something that happens regularly, but every now and then one will come up. And I use my skills of my like diaphragmic breathing. It's like, ugh, I get annoyed with it. So me and my panic, like it's like, oh, you again. And because it's not something that has to scare. Sometimes in the back of my mind, it's like, is that a heart attack or a panic attack? And what I do is I say, okay, let me breathe real quick. And like, if I can make it go away with just breathing and elevating my feet, then okay, then it was just a panic attack. So that's where so that's the process that he's describing.
Muscles and capillaries.
And that's why we see some people do like amazing feats of strength in those situations.
Yes.
It also sends more blood to your brain.
Yes.
And that causes the brain to become more alert and focused, does it not?
Oftentimes, yes.
It is that rush of adrenaline that helps the brain make that split-second decision to know what to do when that car hits you slams the brakes on.
I'm sorry, repeat your question.
It's that rush of adrenaline that causes my brain to be able to make that split-second decision to react to the car hit.
Right. If it's a high arousal, then it's going to be automatized. So system one will engage, and it will be because of the physiological and psychological changes that you're undergoing.
So often I do that without even thinking about it.
Well, it's automatized. You never think about it. That's the description of system one.
Would you agree? Take my situation. If I am an experienced driver, been driving for 30 years of my life.
Okay. So the jury did not believe this, so that's why we don't have to go into too much more of that. I did just want to play the verdict. Let me know if y'all have any questions about this case. The verdict did not surprise me. I'm not surprised that the jury um found her guilty. Um, as I mentioned, she had no response at all. And yeah, let me see. All right. So let's share this tab. And then, okay, so this has the family. Okay. They're going to talk about it. Okay. And we're just going to listen to the verdict. I think they're going to read it. It was fast. It was just guilty.
Sobbing as she walked out of the courtroom, being embraced by loved ones and local attorneys, including community activists, all whom stood by her side since the beginning. And toward the end in that courtroom, she blurted out, "Oh God, thank you, Jesus," as Susan Lorincz was being taken out. This was a 6-person jury, all of them white. They started deliberating right around noon. The verdict was read just shy of 3 o'clock. And before that, jurors had a question and then a request. They wanted to listen to the 911 calls that Lorincz made the night she fired her gun through her locked door and killed AJ. That request was approved. And then they had a clarification question about the door being damaged, but the judge denied that because the evidence, as he said, was already presented during trial.
All right. So then I want to play the statement from the family.
For AJ's children.
I feel that although my daughter is gone forever, the children's mom is gone forever, but we've achieved some justice for Ajike. My heart is a little lighter, and we're now on the path of true healing.
While the defense argued Lorincz was in fear when AJ was pounding on her front door, the state said she intentionally committed the act, was negligent, and caused utter disregard for the life of others when she shot through her locked door that had a deadbolt. And the family of AJ Owens, they say while they are pleased with the prosecutors and the jury reaching this guilty verdict, they are now looking to the judge to do his job. They are asking for the maximum sentence for this manslaughter conviction, and the judge says he will set a future date for that sentencing hearing.
And just on my end, apologizing to the family, Ajike. So I was saying that wrong. So Ajike. Ajike Owens, this is in her memory, and my heart goes out to the kids. I've done some other videos on traumatic grief, traumatic loss in that video. So trigger warning, because I I think because in just talking about loss, I included a type of loss that somebody was kind of upset by. They put it in the comments. That comment is still there, but loss is real. Grief is real, and so yes. So Animal Cookie, is there a connection with age and dysregulation? So I would suspect that Susan's chronic pain, migraine. Now, none of this excuses her behavior. And I also think that she had this entitlement. And I don't know if she felt better than her neighbors. Like that specifically didn't come up. I know that she did not seem to like children. I don't know if anybody showed up for her, because if you notice, she didn't look to the courtroom for anybody. Nobody was hugging her, nobody was looking at her. So I don't know if anybody showed up to support Susan. And if there's nobody to do that, that might be a sign that she might have been an antagonistic person. Just the words that are coming to my mind is like bitter, ugh, just difficult to be around. She seems, just in general, like she was difficult, and if it wasn't her way, she was calling the police. And so, Christy wishing this case had more airtime, and so that's why I definitely wanted to cover it. So sometimes these cases can bring up racial trauma, although race did not come into the case. I do think it added to the potential bias, and yeah, I think it added to things. And so, especially with her calling the kids N-word and her calling them slaves. She denies that. Why would children make that up? I don't know why they would make that up. And she just sounds like she was absolutely horrific. And um, we'll see. Oh, at the end of her interrogation, when she refused to be arrested, thought she would walk. Yeah. And so that's where I think she saw the police as acting on her behalf and almost like it was her police and that they could do her personal bidding. And that's why the police officers were like, hey, if you call, we're going to ask about the other side of it. I didn't see any signs of any degenerative dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. She seemed to be like antagonistic all day. So I didn't personally see any signs like that. It was an all white jury, and so I don't know. And I think there were some things that they did not allow to come in for whatever reason. They didn't allow it to come in. They did this a similar thing with the woman who was like, it was, oh my gosh, what's her name? I covered her case too. Y'all know me and names. She had like just bought a weapon and she pew-pewed a man on the highway. Um because she was like commanding him to stop. Guilty. Forgot what she was found guilty of. Oh my gosh. Yes. No, that's not her. That's not her. Let me see if y'all put it in the chat yet. Y'all know I covered it. Y'all know me and names. I'm so bad with names. So bad with names. Okay. But there was another case where race did not come. Hannah, yes, there we go. Hannah Guti is no, that's the other Hannah. But it wasn't the Gutierrez one. It was another one. Hannah Payne. Hannah Payne. Thank you, Lisa, for helping me with that one. Hannah Payne. She was found guilty. And so sometimes my words, they just like they don't. I've been talking for too long, and my words, they don't come out. I'm still a psychologist, like people. Yes, Hannah Payne. I think she also thought that she was going to get away with her crime, and she did not. Uh, yeah. Um, Yes, 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 yes. So it's Payne. It's Hannah Payne, Payne. It was a case out of Georgia. And she had only, like, I think she was 20 years old. She had just purchased the weapon, like, I think like that week or something. And she unalived a 62-year-old Black man who was having a medical emergency. He had diabetes, and I think she thought he was on drugs, and she thought she had the right to make him stop. And she chased him down with her car, and all of her actions, like, he would still be here if she didn't do everything that she did. All if she was going to do anything, because she was claiming he fled the scene of an accident. He did have an accident, but I think he was also having a medical emergency and he was trying to get to some help. Sometimes people they don't want to call police or an ambulance because if you don't have certain types of insurance, sometimes ambulances are really expensive, or sometimes people are like afraid that they won't get there in time. And so he was just I think he likely would have turned in the information, or the police could have found him. It was not her job to chase him down. And Rachel Ann, you're correct. The police, the dispatch 911 operators were telling her to stop pursuing him, because she's on the phone with 911 telling them exactly what she's doing. And because when she did like cut him off with her car, and he was just trying to go around her car, it was a whole thing. It was a whole mess. I have a video covering her verdict. Sometimes I don't talk about these until there's a verdict. Just emotionally, these people don't always get found guilty. So I don't have a ton of faith all the time. I'm just being honest. I don't always know that the jury is going to see it this way. And so, Shani, hello from the future. Thank you for watching. But I don't watch until there is a verdict because I don't always know if what's going to happen. And so I can talk about it now because we know she was found guilty. If things were still up in the air, because there was a chance a jury could have bought that she was just that scared, and that AJ was, 'cause I think AJ was tall. They tried to call her, some people in the chat, Law and Crime chat, I closed Law and Crime chat. Like, people in the chat were just vicious because I was trying to watch this on some network, and sometimes I would leave Law and Crime and try to find another stream, but every stream I found, the chat was just horrific. And so 5'7". Yeah, people were trying to call her like 300 pounds, and she was not 300 pounds. People were saying all types of horrible stuff. And so, yeah. All right. Oh, okay. Let me see. The difference to me is Susan L. Had intended to shoot AJ, in my opinion, even though that was not part of the trial. Hannah, I truly do not believe intended to kill that day. And that's what her act, she pewed and he like, she pulled her weapon and like if you pull it, you have to be ready. And so we love the ADHD brains here. So I had the love earrings on, so like right before I went live, because I still have my travel earrings. So my office is a mess. So y'all see the clean part. My office is, because when I travel, I unpack in the office, and it is a bit of a mess. Am I gonna get to it today? No. Will it hopefully be clean by next week? We'll see, but we'll see. My kiddos start school on Monday, and so excited about that. For any other kiddos going back to school, I hope kiddos have safe transitions back. Our schools are doing the no phone policy, and I think it'll help kids focus in class. I have some clients that use their phones to like meditate and stuff, and so, or like to play music, and so we'll just have to see how things go. Um, and water is calming to me, and so that's, I love like blue and water and calm. Cherry blossoms are one of my favorite flowers. I did go to the cherry blossom festival a few years ago because my therapist was up that way, and so right after therapy I stopped by the cherry blossom festival and walked around, and it was super cool. And so yes, yes, yes. All right. In Canada, welcome, welcome. Don't start school till first week of September. Other parts of the US, people go back later. Some kiddos went back because in Florida, they went back on the 12th. Some parts of Florida, they went back on Monday. And so hope everybody has a safe transition back. So glad to get to cover this with you all. Next week, I don't know. Like we have some things that we might cover. We'll see. Let me know in the chat or in the comments cases that you would like for me to cover. I'm watching y'all know me in names, the politician out from Las Vegas. Y'all know him, Las Vegas. Yes, who unalived the investigative reporter, Robert Tellis. People are talking about like narcissism, and if he testifies, I will cover that. People are saying that he's probably going to testify. And so if he testifies, okay, because I love it when the defendant gets up there, because he seems like he's a little erratic. He reminds me, not me, because I watched his interview with the reporter, which his lawyer probably did not recommend. I watched that. Seemed problematic to me. And so if he gets up there and testifies, I have some thoughts. That's the case that I watched with Melanie Little. If you don't follow her, she's a lawyer. She only has like 60,000 subs, but she's a phenomenal creator. And we talked about doing a collaboration. I will let y'all know if that happens. But yes, yeah, he's just, so that's where I'm trying to find, because I like for us to learn something. I like for us to learn something. And I don't know what I have to say yet, but if he testifies, we're gonna talk about it. because it narcissists often want to tell their story, but they shouldn't. Like it normally doesn't go well. And if Alec Murdaugh gets another trial, I don't think he'll testify again. We'll see. I don't think he'll testify again. I think that got him in trouble last time. We'll see. But I appreciate you all being here. I hope y'all enjoy the rest of y'all's Saturday. For people out in the UK, the replay crew, thank y'all. In other parts of the world, I appreciate everyone. Have a good one. Bye.